Welcome to our beloved audience. You are tuned into another segment of Weledoy right here on TMH. And on this week's segment, we are discussing a brand new documentary that's making its way around the States, doing private screenings. And there's one coming to Seattle this weekend, and I have guests joining me to discuss that. Firstly, thank you all three for joining me. And I will let you guys introduce yourselves. Fadila, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Delaytna. Everybody, my name is Fadila. Thank you for tuning in. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and we'll be hosting the screening that's coming up next week. So I'll be speaking a little bit about that, and I'll go ahead and let Jonas introduce himself next.
Hello, I'm Jonas Demos. I'm also from Seattle, and I'll be part of the group bringing the screening to Seattle.
And Roman, you are the brains behind this documentary, so if you could introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Roman Debauch. I am a filmmaker currently living in Las Vegas.
Thank you again, guys, so much for joining me. I do want to just start with you, Roman. As I said, you are behind the creation of this documentary. So tell me about this documentary, how you came up with the idea and behind creating the film.
I was so hopeful about the UN Security Council having meetings about what was happening in Tigray. So hopeful. Looking back at it now, I understand I was so naive because I thought something would come out of these meetings.
Sure. I initially wanted to make a short documentary about Tigrayan advocates that were working around the clock to advocate for Tigray. And this is mostly an interview-based documentary. And what the project turned out to be is the perspective of the Tigray war unfolding through the perspective of the Tigrayan diaspora. And it follows how the first year of the war has unfolded. So I interview the Tigrayan advocates, scholars, people working for NGOs, and political analysts also I have interviewed. So it looks into not just the current conflict, but the history of Tigray and Ethiopian relations and how that has unfolded from 150 years ago. And it looks into the history of, Haile Selassie, the Derg regime, EPRDF, and then how the current conflict unfolded. Wow. So it's a pretty comprehensive documentary.
Last year, Ethiopia's prime minister won the Nobel Peace Prize. Now he's waging war in the country's north.
I was dumbfounded when the war broke out. I had to go back and do so much research to understand what led to this conflict.
Yeah, it seems to be very in depth. What was the inspiration behind it? What made you feel like this was an important time for such a film?
I've always loved documentaries, and I love watching those extended documentaries about historical things, like in the West, if you've seen, CNN documentaries about, the 60s and 90s in the US. And I've always wanted to create something like that for back home, for Ethiopia. And I was looking for the right inspiration to hit me. And then this war happened, and I was really studying Tigrayan history, and I thought, oh, wow, this is a fascinating thing. This should be combined. The history should be combined with explaining how the conflict happened and how much history is really repeating itself. And this is history that a lot of us, younger people, younger generation specifically, does not know. And I also thought it would be a great tool for advocacy work also, because there are a lot of people who care about what's happening in Tigray, but are not sure about the history of it. So this would be a perfect opportunity to combine history with the current advocacy work we're doing.
Jonas, I understand that you've already watched the screening and the soft premiere in Portland. I wanted to ask for your perspective. What was your first impression on watching the documentary? How did it make you feel? And what should people really expect from this film?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, first of all, TMH, giving us the platform to talk about the upcoming screening. I went to Portland with a couple of friends, and The documentary was really well made. Like Roman said, it takes you about 150 years back, and it describes everything that happened within that time frame. And then, the last 40 years and the last about 30 years of 27 EPRDF plus the rest of the time, and it describes what led to the ongoing genocide in Tigray. And hats off to Roman. She really put a lot of effort, and you can tell in the documentary. There's a lot of details in it. There's a lot of stories. Some of it, a lot of our community members already know what's going on, but the documentary is in English, and the target audience, probably will speak later, is to showcase the diaspora kids or other society that want to be ally or support the Tigray cause. So I was really impressed by the documentary. It's about 2.5 hours long. So we, at the end of the documentary, we had a time to discuss what we just saw, and and how we can take the Tigray fight global. How can we get allies after watching this documentary? And I was really inspired. So were my friends that went with me, and then we decided to bring it to Seattle. So here we are.
Beautiful. What was your greatest takeaway from the documentary?
The greatest takeaway from the documentary is just, as Tagaru, we don't document our history. We don't document anything, whether it's good or bad, that happens in our community. We don't document it. And I was really proud that, Roman took that step to document this, because this documentary is not just to show what's happening now, but then also a few years down the line, or decades from now, this documentary can be used as a stepping stone to make another documentary, and I'm pretty sure Roman will continue to make more of this. So that was the biggest takeaway. I was just proud that it was documented, and it was made available for everyone, not just the Tigray community.
I feel like that's a really important point to make. We do have this lack of documenting our history the correct way, and we find ourselves other people writing it for us. So again, thank you, Roman, for taking that step and that initiative. As you just mentioned, that it is now coming to Seattle. Fadila, you did say you will be hosting it. Tell me more about this film screening that'll be taking place in Seattle this weekend.
Yeah, so the film screening that's being hosted in Seattle is being done in collaboration with the Seattle Youth alongside the Tigray Rebuild Tigray Foundation. So Tigray Rebuild Tigray has been taking it on tour all around America. Like Jonas said, they just left Portland, and after how moved everybody was in Portland, a group of people felt really inspired to bring it to Seattle. So working with the Tigray Rebuild Tigray Foundation, we are working on an extremely an event that really is catered to everybody in our community. The event is this Sunday at Sunday, September 4th at 4 p.m. It's at the Langston Hughes Theater. So for those of people that are watching from Seattle or even neighboring cities like Portland, I know we had some people from Seattle go down and watch it in Portland. And this time around, we've got our community from Portland. A few of them have come up to watch it this weekend in Seattle. So if you're in the area or surrounding area, we really encourage everybody to come. The event is going to start at 4 p.m. with appetizers, beverages. We'll have speakers. We've got professional photography. We've got a photo gallery with art and prints of different artists in our area and all around America, around the world, actually, now that I think about it. So we're taking this time to really highlight the art in our community and to just breathe life into that effort, as well as to try to break some of the bonds that we have, not break, but build some of the bonds that we have with members of outside communities. So we've invited a ton of ally organizations to join us as well. We'll speak more on that in a little bit, but after the beverage appetizer cocktail session, the movie begins at 6 p.m. Like Jonas said, it's a bit of a longer documentary, so we're going to do an intermission about an hour or so in to kind of take a break and, recenter ourselves. It is a heavy documentary, and then we will wrap up the movie at about 9:30 And that will be followed by about an hour's worth of a reflection period, similar to what they did in Portland. We really want to make sure it's kind of like a conversation where we talk before, we watch the movie, we digest it, and then we kind of reflect after and talk about how we can use what we've learned to further our advocacy to strengthen our community as a whole. For me, like, I know that this is like kind of long time coming. It's been about 2 years since the big start of the war, and I'm really happy. Like, again, Yona said, hats off to Roman. She's done a lot of work into this documentary. I know that they're going on tour to other cities, but I am really happy that it's coming to Seattle now. A big champion for the Seattle community. I really want to make sure that we're able to educate our community. There's a lot of us here in Seattle, and I want to emphasize that all ages are welcome. It is a heavier documentary, so I understand if it might be too much. Some people may feel for their younger children, but I do want to emphasize that this is the reality of our people. Our people back home, our kids back home, don't have the luxury of being shielded from what they're going through. And I think it's important that our kids are aware of what's going on in detail. A lot of, especially like I want to say our middle school age and high school age kids know there's an issue, but they don't really understand what's going on. So this documentary is really going to be able to explain everything like that, break it down for them to that audience. So kids under 12 are free. If you're a student, we're giving a discount of $30 for tickets. And then for everybody else, it's $40. That includes your meals and beverages. But we really just want to emphasize, more than the money or anything, that we really want to encourage our community to be there and to also bring, non-Tagalog people as well. And we'll touch on that in a little bit.
Absolutely. And I do know the profits will be donated as well, correct?
They will be. It'll be donated to Makata, Seattle, as well as the Tagalog Rebuild Tigray Foundation, which will then take those funds to help go on tour and also help refugees in Sudan and in Tigray.
Right. And Roman, as Jonas said, after watching the film, he felt like it was directed towards the international community, the diaspora, and just allies in general. But when you were making the film, what was your intention? Who was the target audience that you were hoping to reach?
I think we expect too much from international community. International community is one term, but there are so many players. We have seen that in the UN Security Council, that international community became divided. So we could not see any tangible, any concrete steps at UN Security Council.
The international response has been in considerable measure disappointing. Not too surprising in terms of inability to come together with a common point of view. In the United Nations itself, and particularly on the UN Security Council, which is the key organization in all of this, you of course have 5 permanent members, any one of whom can veto a proposal or an action.
And the idea that the rest of the world is sort of watching this happen, this slow-moving genocide. Starvation is a slow way to kill people. To commit genocide is, usually you have these images of concentration camps and footage and stuff that you find out after the fact. This is something that we knew about for a long time. We knew that food wasn't getting in because the U.S. has been there delivering food. We've been in Ethiopia. We have a network there. The humanitarian focus has been on Ethiopia for a very long time. So we knew that aid was being blocked. And we knew that these things were happening. We knew that people couldn't survive without aid, particularly after what the army, the Eritrean and Ethiopian armies had done to Tigray. We knew that people wouldn't be able to survive this, but we were sort of letting it happen.
Yeah, the international response has been pathetic.
Well, my target audience from the beginning was the non-Tigrayan, non-Habesha community, because our advocacy work has always been to reach people who are not aware of what's happening in Tigray. So that's why I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to make sure this is in English so people can understand what's happening in Tigray, because there are a lot of people, even though it's been almost 2 years now, who do not know what's happening in Tigray or where Tigray is, or where Ethiopia might be. So I wanted to start from scratch and educate them about, our location, what the history is, and what led to this conflict. So it's important for me that it was in English because my target audience is, again, the non-Tagaro community.
And what did you want them to take away from it?
Okay, few things. One, I wanted them to understand our history, because a lot of people might know the country Ethiopia, the name of Ethiopia, but what about the Tigrayan community? Do they know the history of Tigray, what Tigray has contributed to Ethiopia at large? And then two, I want them to understand how dire the need is right now. A lot of other conflicts have gotten bigger coverage, like the Ukraine war, but our families deserve just as much attention. And I know there's a lot of people out there who care. If they knew about it, they would care about it. So the biggest struggle is, again, getting people to know about it. And then how are they going to care? They're going to care if they know, if they feel like they can relate to the stories of these people, if they knew the history of what's been happening. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of marry those two. Teach them the history and let them know, hey, there's a great need here and action needs to be taken.
Amazing. And Jonas, if you can just elaborate a little further in Tigrinya for our audience that might not understand English to what we've been discussing thus far, for people that might come to Seattle to watch this film, what could you tell them in Tigrinya, what they could expect and what they could take away as well?
Yeah, thank you. So the documentary በእንግሊሽ obviously ዓላማ ናይቲ ዶክመንተሪ ከዓ ካልኦት ተጋሩ ንዘይኮኑ ኦዲየንስ ነቲ ናይ ትግራይ ጀኖሳይድ ኣብ ምግዋሕ ኣብ ምፍላጥ ዶኔት ኣብ ምግባር ኣብ ምሕጋዝ ንኽተሓባበሩና ዓላማ ብምግባር በእንግሊሽ ዝተሰርሐ ዶክመንተሪ ሶ ኣብ መሳርሕትኩም ዘለዉ ምሳኹም ዝሰርሑ ብዛዕባ ናይ ትግራይ ዝፈልጡ ወይ ብዛዕባ ናይ ትግራይ ክምሃሩ ዝደልዩ ክሕግዙ ዝደልዩ ኣብ ሲያትል ከባቢያን ዘለዉ እዚ ኢንቫይት ተሰድሎም መፅኦም ተዝርኢ እቲ ዶክመንተሪ ብል ማለት እዩ ሶ እቲ ዶክመንተሪ ካብ 150 ዓመት ጀሚሩ እስካብ ሕጂ ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ሙሉእ ኣብ ትግራይ ዘጋጠመ ኩሉ ነገር ብዝተኻለ መጠን ይድህስስ ትምህርቲ ኣምሮት ይህብ ማለት እዩ ብዛዕባ ናይ ትግራይ ጀኖሳይድ እውን ኣፀቢቑ ይገልፅ ኢለ ይግምት ኣብ ፖርትላንድ ከይደ ርእየ ነይረ ብዙሕ ተማሂረሉ I think ተጋሩ ከም ተጋሩ ታሪክ ስለ ዘይንስንድ ሮማን እዚ ሓላፍነት ወሲዳ ዶክመንት ብምግባራ ብጣዕሚ ተሓቢነ ደስ ኢልኒ ሶ እዚ ዶክመንተሪ እዚ ሞር ከዓቢ ዘለዎ ብዙሕ ዶክመንተሪ ከምዚ ዓይነት ክበዝሕ ኣለዎ ኣብ ኮሚኒቲ ናህና ሶ ኣብ ሲያትልን ከባቢያን ዘለኹም ደቅኹም ሒዝኩም መሳርሕትኹም ካልኦት ፃዕዱ ወይ ካልኦት ደቂ ኣሜሪካ ክሕግዙ ዝኽእሉ ብዛዕባ ናይ ትግራይ ክምሃሩ ዝደልዩ ኣጋውዕሎም ሶ እቲ ዕለት ሰፕተምበር 4 መስከረም 4 ካብ 4 ሰዓት እስካብ 10 PM ይጅምር 4 ሰዓት ምግብን ተወሰነ just መስተ like ከምዚ ለስላሳ ገለ just appetizer ዝበሃል ኣሎ ብዛዕባ ናይቲ ዶክመንተሪ ክንዘራረብ ኢና እንታይ ከም ዝመስል ኣብቲ ጋለሪ ኣሎ ብዛዕባ ናይ ስእልታት ወይ ፎቶታት ዝተላዕለ ትግራይ ጀኖሳይድ ፕሮቴስት ዝተላዕለ ወይ ከዓ ገለ ኣርቲስታት ተጋሩ ዝሰኣልዎ ስእልታት ክመፅእ እዩ ንሱ ክነሪኦ ኢና ዲስከሽን ክህሉ እዩ ካብቲ ዶክመንተሪ ሰዓት 6 ክጅምር ካብ ሰዓት 6 እስካብ ሰዓት 9 ኣቢሉ 2 ሰዓትን ፈርቓኒ ዝኸውን እቲ ዶክመንተሪ ኣብ መንጎ ከዓ ናይ ሓደ 10-20 ደቂቃ ዕረፍቲ ወሲድና ነዊሕ ዶክመንተሪ ስለ ዝኾነ ብዙሕ ስምዒትካ እውን ክጎዲ ዝኽእል ነገራት ስለ ዘለዎ ንምዝርራብ ንጥቀመሉ ኢና ሶ the whole point መሳርሕትኩም ዓድሙ መፅኦም ንኽሪኡ መፅኦም ንኽሕግዙ ንኽመሃሩ ግበሮም so I think that's a good summary.
Beautiful summary. Thank you so much for that. And Fadila, when it does come to your city in Seattle, what are you hoping to learn from this film for yourself?
Yeah, Personally, I'm the most excited or looking forward to learning about more of the history. Like, I can say that personally, I'm pretty well versed on the current conflict, but as somebody who doesn't speak Tigrinya, or I speak Tigrinya but doesn't read or write in Tigrinya or Amarinya, it's hard to kind of find a lot of the history out there that's from our own firsthand source that I would, trust full-heartedly, that I can say is an accurate representation of our history and our contributions to Ethiopia. So I'm excited or looking forward to learning more about our history and really having it break down in like the most simple terms. Like the movie starts with like, where is Tigray? And then it goes into like all of our history and then how it led up to this war. So, I feel like there's nobody that can say they're 100% aware of every facet of this war. They are a historian and they could tell you everything that's in this documentary off the top of their head. There's always somebody that everybody will be able to learn something from this documentary, no matter how much history you know, no matter how much you know about the current conflict, no matter how much research you do, there's going to always be something to learn from this documentary. And personally, for me, it's the history. And I know for other people in our community, it might be a different thing. I know like we have younger people in our community, like I said, that know there's an issue, but don't really understand the gravity of the situation, which is why we want to make it even easier for the younger people to watch it. Like I said, kids under 12 are free and we're giving a discount for students. And that's purposeful. We want you guys to encourage your kids to come. And if you are in middle school or in high school and are able to make it, we really want you guys there. This is a perfect opportunity to learn more about what's going on, to network with people in your community. We're going to have booths set up with different, organizations that you can take part of, different resources for us. So this is like a really big step for us. And as it continues to go on tour in other countries, in other cities, I think we'll start to see its impact more and more. We did a live a session on Instagram just a few days ago with me, Roman, Jonas, and Nadia. She's also from Seattle, and we talked about the documentary and how it's coming to Seattle. And a non-Tigrayan media page actually reached out to the Tigray Rebuild Tigray Foundation and asked if they could bring the documentary to their city. They wanted to host it. So we're now at a point where we're breaking our echo chamber. This is exactly what we've been trying to do for the past 2 years. This film perfectly explains what's going on. It's really hard for us to have these conversations and explain everything that's been going on in the last 2 years in these brief 20, 30-minute interactions we have with people. But you can simply invite them to this showing and they will be able to come donate to survivors of the war, spend time with their community, and learn everything there is to learn about this war and the history of Tigray. So, this, like I said, it's breaking our echo chamber. We're having non-Tigaru allies reach out to us now, asking us to, educate them about what's going on. And that's just very amazing. And again, want to thank Roman for all the work she put into this documentary to make it so impactful that would be the case. So again, I also want to thank TMH for having us here. And that's about it.
We're grateful to have you guys as well. And I think that's such a crucial point. It's this echo chamber. It does feel like it's loosening up if it's not fully broken yet, but it is definitely expanding and more allies are trickling in. Give some type of perspective to understand to what's happening is giving the history behind it. We all know what's happening or what has been happening for the past couple of years, but giving them that forefront of what was happening prior and how we really got here today is, I think, a greater way to capture an ally's attention. But yeah, I think, Fidelia, that was a really important point to make. And as we move forward in our activism, it's important to open up more rooms for people like this to come in. As you mentioned, having those 30-minute conversations can be impactful, but not to the length and to the depth of what a film and a documentary like this can do. So again, Roman, thank you so much for this film, for your hard work. And if more people want to bring this film into their city, how would they go about doing that? How would they go about reaching out to you to make that happen?
Sure. So the organization that's taking this film on tour is Tigray Rebuild Tigray. So you can reach out to us on Instagram, Tigray Rebuild Tigray, or on Twitter, or you can send me email to my personal email account, rdebauch@gmail.com.
Okay, rdebauch@gmail.com. Thank you for that. Thank you, all three of you, for joining me, Fadila, Jonas, Roman. This was an important conversation to have. I personally can't wait to see this film screening myself, and we'll figure out a way to bring it to DC as soon as possible. Before I let you guys go, I'll open up the space for you guys just to make your last remarks, and I'll start with you, Roman.
So like we've been saying, the biggest target audience for us is the Nentagaro community. So if you live in the Seattle area, come out and bring out at least one or two Nentagaro people. This can be co-workers, friends, neighbors, spouses, obviously. So that they can learn about what's happening, and we need their support. We need allies. And also their money can be used for people who are displaced, for people who are in need. So this is a very important thing to be able to accomplish both of those.
Thank you. Jonas?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Roman said, bring your coworkers, your friends, any of them, so they can support us. Just particularly as summarize together. Masaratuhum tamaluhum naftu documentary of Mozogorum, at least and a celestials at Mazia, so Mahazutezon. So I challenge you guys to bring one or two Masaratuhum and Mahazutkum, Hizkum. So that's the whole point. Nana already at Tigray Zakatum Zolo. واستخدام مثلا فولتينا جن علم من دين فولتو سب قالت زي تجارب زي كون من تنك حجزنا زوم حاجتنا مسارتنا نفولتو ولنا ما زين حجزنا لهم so تعلم عن شيء. Thank you, TMH.
Thank you, Fadila.
Yeah, just to echo that, they can't, not just themselves, tell your friends to come and tell your friends to bring their families. So their parents, their kids, their siblings, their friends, like really urge them to share it. If you are active in school, if you are a part of any organizations, like I know a few of us are part of like Black organizations or Muslim organizations or have other active groups that they may be in, share it with them and really try to spread it out into other communities, especially when they come to your city. And also for those that are watching that may not live in Seattle or are from Seattle and can't attend the showing, you are still able to donate to the cause. And on that same link where you can buy tickets, there's a donation option, and you can we'll still appreciate your support that way. Again, this event is thrown by the youth in Seattle, so we always want to encourage the youth to continue in their efforts to help Tigray, and this is a very big step towards building our community nationwide. So thank you again to TMH for having us here, and to everybody who tuned in. Tigray Tsar.
Love that. What a beautiful way to end it, you guys. For all of you tuned in, The Fight for Tigray, a film, a documentary, is making its way around the states this weekend. It will be in Seattle, September 4th. Starts at 4 p.m. Admissions are $40. Student discount is $30. If you're under 12 years old, it's free. So bring your kids. It's a whole family event. It might be a bit heavy, but I think it's super important, especially for the younger generation, to really understand where they come from, why we're here today, and as you heard them, they challenge you to bring an ally with you. 1, 2, however many numbers. Make sure you bring somebody with you to help us really break free from within this echo chamber that we've been living in for over a year and a half now. Thank you guys so much, all three of you, for joining me, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Weledoy. Bye guys.
To Ethiopia, where Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has announced a, quote, final military operation against the defiant Tigray province.
November 4th, 2020.
I will never forget where I was when I learned that the war on Tigray had started.
I was awakened by the sound of gunfire, like warfare, like battle.
Yeah, my dad was in Tigray, my mom was in Tigray.
Because there is a history of that in war, when, one group succeeds in something, and even in the context of Tigray, like Ethiopian Eritrean troops retaliating when TDF does something successful, and because of the border towns and the vulnerable locations, and the fact that it's so rural, it seemed imminent, like that there was going to be that threat there as well. And so I immediately was like excited, but then thinking about my family in rural rural Tigray.
And the regional government of Tigray says its forces have broken the backbone of the Ethiopian army.
It's important to note that it appears to be a ceasefire because the government forces lost.
When Mekelle was taken over by TDF, I was in London, actually grabbing some coffee, and when I was just scrolling through my Twitter account, and then I saw the news, I was kind of surprised because I didn't think that was actually going to happen. I was expecting it to happen maybe in November, December. So I was happy, but I had to make calls real quick to see if that was actually real or it was just, someone just trolling on Twitter. And when it was actually true, I was ecstatic. But at the same time, I felt like there was a catch because I didn't think Ethiopia or Eritrea would give up so soon, And where we're at right now, it's true, like they're not going to give up so soon.
So once TDF was able to take back Mekelle, Abiy Ahmed declared a ceasefire, a unilateral ceasefire. It was a series of military defeats that caused the Ethiopian and Eritreans to run for their lives and leave the cities. And thank God that happened. The other thing is, if it was a ceasefire, why the siege on Tigray? Why are all of the services still off? Why is the internet still off? Why are the phones still off? Why is there still no running water? If you truly are calling a ceasefire and you truly are trying to give the farmers a chance to farm, where are their seeds? Where's their oxen? Where are their tools? All of that has been destroyed or stolen by Eritreans. So if you truly are trying to help the Tigrayan people, then how? Show us how. My name is Maliti Brahana Mescal.
My name is Bakimos.
My name is Hausen Gabameti.
So my name's Kasich.
My name is Mabo Mubarak.
My name is Madi.
My name is Salamoit Mangasha.
My name is Raflaya.
My name is Bethany.
My name is Jerusalem.
Tigray is my home in every sense of the word.